He stands at the altar, heart pounding, smiling like a man stepping into destiny. The music swells, her eyes glisten, and for a moment, everything feels sacred. But what he doesn't realize is that this moment isn't the beginning of love, it's the end of freedom. Because when he signs that paper, he isn't sealing a promise, he's surrendering control. Marriage, as it exists today, isn't about union, it's about ownership, and he's the asset. The truth no one tells men is this: marriage was never designed for modern times. It was built when roles were fixed, loyalty was survival, and law favoured stability. But today, that same system has become a trap, a contract that rewards her departure and punishes his devotion. What if marriage isn't sacred anymore? What if it's the most elegant scam ever created, and the cost isn't money, but a man's peace? Number 1, the dream they sold you. From childhood, every man is programmed to believe the same story, that love is the ultimate reward, and marriage is its final proof. Fairy tales, movies, and even his parents' silent examples teach him that being a good man means providing, protecting, and proving loyalty. He learns to equate sacrifice with worth. The more he gives, the more he deserves love. Meanwhile, she's taught something different. Her value isn't measured by sacrifice, but by desirability. She's told she is the prize, that love is something she inspires, not something she earns. From the very beginning, the genders are taught opposite truths. He must earn love, she must simply be loved. So he grows up chasing approval, mistaking female acceptance for purpose. When he meets the one, he believes he's arrived. He invests his time, his effort, his savings, and eventually his signature, the ultimate symbol of trust. What he doesn't see is that the entire system was designed around his labour, not his liberation. Because the dream wasn't his to begin with. It was a story built by a culture that profits from men giving everything away: their freedom, their focus, their future, in exchange for a fantasy of security. And by the time he realizes the imbalance, it's too late. He's emotionally bound to the very institution that benefits most from his submission. The cruel irony: he thought marriage was a reward for his discipline, his loyalty, his hard work. But in reality, it was a test. One where the price of love is paid in silence, and the interest compounds over time. Number 2, the contract that isn't romantic. We're taught to see marriage as a declaration of love. But in the eyes of the law, it's not a love story. It's a contract. A legally binding agreement where one party holds the leverage and the other holds the liability. When you marry, you merge your finances, your assets, your future. Not in partnership, but in exposure. It's the only contract on earth where one side can break it and still collect. You can be faithful, supportive, and stable, and still lose everything. Because the modern legal system doesn't reward loyalty, it rewards exit. Marriage is structured on an outdated premise that men hold all the power. But in today's world, that lie has reversed. She can walk away at any time and take half of what you built, plus guaranteed support. You can't. Her decision is protected by the state. Yours is punished by it. This isn't cynicism, it's fact. The emotional contract says, forever. The legal one says, until one of us changes our mind, and when that happens, you pay. Men marry for permanence. Women are incentivized for flexibility. That's the asymmetry. He invests for stability. She's empowered by volatility. He loses either way. By staying, he sacrifices passion. By leaving, he sacrifices everything else. The romance hides the risk. The ceremony hides the contract. And the vows, those beautiful words of "till death do us part," hide a clause more powerful than love itself, subject to legal interpretation. Marriage is no longer about union. It's about jurisdiction. Once love enters the system, it's no longer yours. Number 3, how the system weaponizes commitment. The modern marriage system is built on a contradiction. Men are told to commit but punished for doing so. Society glorifies the selfless husband until his selflessness becomes convenient to exploit. The very laws designed to protect family stability now reward family destruction. When divorce occurs, statistics are merciless. Custody? Usually hers. Alimony? Typically his responsibility. Public sympathy? Always on her side. and even if she leaves for reasons unrelated to abuse or neglect, she's still framed as courageous, finally choosing herself. Commitment, once a virtue, has become a vulnerability. Because she has an exit strategy, he has obligations, she can change her mind and be celebrated. He can't, and if he does, he's branded heartless. The message is clear. A woman's commitment is voluntary, a man's is permanent. That imbalance makes him an easy target for manipulation disguised as morality. It's not that every woman is malicious, most aren't, but the system makes leaving easier than staying, and when human nature meets incentive, the outcome is predictable. The irony is, men are still taught that love is strongest when unconditional. But unconditional love inside a conditional system is suicide. You can't build permanence inside a structure that rewards impermanence. Marriage used to protect men and women from chaos. Now it protects the chaos itself through a system that thrives on turnover, not loyalty. Because in the modern world, the longer you stay married, the less everyone profits, except you, and that's why your happiness isn't part of the equation. Number 4, the death of desire. Inside most marriages, love doesn't die, desire does, and it doesn't happen because people change, it happens because the roles do. The moment obligation replaces pursuit, polarity disappears. The man who once captivated her becomes the man who simply provides. She wanted excitement, but demanded safety. He delivered safety, and killed excitement in the process. She confuses comfort with security, then resents the very man who gave it to her. He confuses peace with passion, and wonders why she stopped responding. In the beginning, he was the unknown, unpredictable, magnetic, full of possibility. Now he's the known, dependable, routine, predictable. What she once desired has become what she tolerates. And when that shift happens, everything changes. She starts to crave the feeling of being wanted, not the man who wants her. He starts trying harder, thinking more effort equals more love. But every act of desperation only confirms her loss of attraction. Here's the cruel truth. The more a man gives to maintain desire, the faster he loses it. Because passion isn't built through security, it's built through polarity. When he sacrifices all his edge for peace, he unknowingly signs the death certificate of her attraction. The tragedy is that both of them think they're doing the right thing. He believes stability equals love. She believes excitement equals truth. And both end up mourning something they helped destroy. Number 5, the divorce economy. When the end comes, it doesn't arrive like a storm, it arrives like a transaction. Love becomes paperwork, trust becomes evidence, memories become leverage. And behind the emotional chaos stands an entire industry that profits from male collapse. Divorce is no longer a tragedy, it's a marketplace. Lawyers, therapists, consultants, all feeding on the breakdown of something that was supposed to be sacred. The more conflict, the more money. The more men suffer, the more the system thrives. And make no mistake, it's not built to mediate peace, it's built to monetize pain. When she leaves, she steps into a world that's already on her side. From legal aid to emotional support networks, everything is designed to make her transition smoother. For him, it's isolation, confusion, and a bill for his own defeat. The state doesn't see him as a person, it sees him as a source of revenue, predictable, enforceable, expendable. Men lose more than assets, they lose identity. The home he built becomes collateral, the children he raised become bargaining chips. The years of effort that once defined him are liquidated in a courtroom. She emerges stronger, celebrated for rediscovering herself. He emerges quieter, punished for not seeing it coming, and the machine moves on to the next broken family ready to profit again. Here's the secret. Marriage isn't failing. It's functioning exactly as designed. It was never about love, it was about control. And as long as men keep believing that signing paper makes them valuable, the cycle will continue, endlessly, efficiently, profitably. Because in a system that rewards loss, your pain is just another product. Number 6, the awakening from servant to sovereign. Every man who's been broken by marriage eventually reaches a quiet moment that changes everything. It's not the court date or the argument or even the final goodbye. It's the silence afterward. The day he wakes up, looks around the empty room, and realizes that no one is coming to save him. That moment is brutal, But it's sacred, because it's the death of the servant and the birth of the sovereign. For years he lived in service to someone else's happiness, believing love meant losing himself. But in that silence, when there's nothing left to protect or prove, something ancient stirs inside him. He starts asking questions he never dared to before. What if I stop chasing approval? What if I stop giving more than I receive? What if love isn't meant to complete me, but to challenge me to stand alone? That's where the awakening begins. He starts to see that his self-worth was never his own. It was outsourced. Every gesture of kindness, every act of sacrifice, every ounce of effort was a form of negotiation. He was trading authenticity for acceptance. But once the illusion collapses, he has no choice but to rebuild from truth. At first, he's bitter, then detached, then, finally, calm. Because awareness always comes wrapped in pain, but it's still freedom. He realizes the same qualities that once made him a good husband, discipline, loyalty, endurance, are the same tools he can use to rebuild himself. The world doesn't tell men this, but the end of love is often the beginning of purpose. He stops chasing affection and starts mastering presence. He stops serving emotion and starts serving direction. Slowly, the man who once lived for validation becomes the man who chooses what deserves his energy. That's sovereignty, not control over others, but control over yourself. Because when a man no longer fears being alone, he becomes unstoppable. The marriage may have broken his heart, but it also broke his dependence, and in that destruction lies his rebirth. Number 7. The female paradox. When she leaves, she believes she's escaping. She imagines freedom, open doors, endless choices, validation on demand. For a while it works. She feels lighter, admired, liberated. Social media applauds her glow up. Friends celebrate her courage. She finally feels alive again, until the high begins to fade. Because the freedom she gained came with an invisible weight, accountability. There's no one left to blame, no one left to stabilize her moods, no one left to catch her when the world doesn't deliver the validation she expected. In the beginning, every compliment feels like proof she made the right choice. But after months, maybe years, the attention stops filling her. It becomes noise. What she mistook for empowerment was really novelty, the temporary thrill of being seen again. But novelty always decays into emptiness. She'll tell herself she's happier, but at night, the silence says otherwise. The same independence she once romanticized starts to feel like exile, because freedom without purpose always leads to anxiety. She can post, travel, distract herself, but no external validation can replace the internal stability she lost. Meanwhile, the man she left, the one she once pitied, begins to rebuild, not out of revenge, but out of peace. He learns to love solitude. He learns to create meaning from discipline, not attention. And slowly, the roles reverse. Her freedom starts to feel like a cage. His solitude starts to feel like strength. This is the paradox of modern liberation. She thought she was escaping him, but she was really escaping herself. He thought he lost everything, but he was being given back his autonomy. In time, she may realize that what she called oppression was actually structure, and what he called heartbreak was initiation. Number 8. The redefinition of marriage. The truth is, marriage isn't dying, it's mutating. The sacred bond that once symbolized unity has become a negotiation between competing egos. It used to be a covenant, now it's a contract. Once it was about building something bigger than both people. Now it's about protecting yourself from the person who claims to love you. Modern marriage thrives on emotional entitlement, not mutual responsibility. It's no longer what can we build together, but what can I get while it lasts. Love has been replaced by leverage, connection replaced by convenience. Men still enter with idealism, women increasingly with contingency. But here's what most don't see. The problem isn't that marriage exists, it's that its original purpose has been forgotten. Marriage was never meant to complete you. It was meant to confront you, to force you to evolve beyond your selfishness. But once culture replaced sacrifice with self-gratification, the structure collapsed. So, what's left? A shell of tradition without the soul that made it sacred. A ritual built on nostalgia, sustained by fear and enforced by law. The new generation senses this. That's why fewer men are proposing, not because they hate love, but because they've seen what happens when love enters the legal system. They've watched their fathers, their uncles, their mentors lose everything in the name of equality. They've learned the truth. You can love deeply without signing your life away. Marriage in its current form doesn't protect love. It commercializes it. It doesn't sanctify loyalty. It punishes it. The future belongs to men who redefine commitment, not as submission to a broken system, but as alignment with shared values. Real partnership doesn't need a contract. It needs clarity. It doesn't need permission. It needs integrity. The smartest men aren't avoiding marriage because they fear women. They're avoiding it because they understand the cost of illusion. Number 9. Reclaiming power through detachment. At some point, every man must choose between two kinds of peace: the fragile calm of comfort or the unshakable stillness of sovereignty. Most men spend their lives chasing the first, mistaking compliance for love and stability for happiness. But the men who wake up, who truly see the system for what it is, start walking a different path, the path of the modern monk. This isn't about celibacy or bitterness. It's about detachment from need, from validation, from the illusion that someone else can give you meaning. When a man stops chasing approval, the world loses its leverage over him. He stops seeing relationships as salvation. He stops measuring his worth by how wanted he is. Instead, he builds himself like a fortress, grounded, self-respecting, and free. Women feel that shift instantly. Ironically, it's the moment he no longer needs them that they start wanting him. Because detachment isn't coldness, it's power. It's what makes him magnetic again. He becomes the man who gives, not to impress, but because giving is his nature. Who loves, not to be loved back, but because love is his state of being. That's masculine mastery. Not domination, not withdrawal, but direction. This man doesn't swear off love. He just refuses to sell himself for it. He can walk beside a woman without losing himself, stay soft without being submissive, stay loyal without becoming trapped. And that's the greatest irony of all. The man who walks away from the illusion of marriage often finds deeper connection than the man who signed for it. Because real love doesn't demand proof, it demands presence. Freedom doesn't mean avoiding women, it means understanding your value so deeply that you no longer trade it for affection. So what does all of this really mean? It means the illusion is over. The era where men blindly walked into lifelong contracts without question is ending. Not because men are bitter, but because they're finally becoming aware. Awareness isn't rebellion, it's evolution. The modern man doesn't hate marriage. He just refuses to participate in something that no longer honors balance. He understands that love without freedom is servitude, and commitment without reciprocity is captivity. The tragedy is that it took generations of broken men to expose the truth. Men who worked themselves into graves, paid for homes they no longer lived in, raised kids they rarely saw, all for a system that claimed to protect family, yet destroyed it. But awareness changes everything. Once a man sees the game, he can't unsee it. And that sight doesn't make him cynical, it makes him sovereign. Because when you remove illusion, what remains is clarity. When you stop chasing approval, what remains is purpose. When you stop fearing loss, what remains is peace. Love isn't the enemy, illusion is. Marriage isn't evil, dependence is. And once a man learns that his value doesn't need validation, the system collapses. Because a man who no longer needs to be chosen becomes the kind of man who always will be. Your choice, your life, start now.